Good evening and a very warm welcome to you from the Bali. The digital platform Avant Arte, founded in 2015 by two young guys from Almere, has become a serious player in the art world. With 2.3 million followers on Instagram, they connect young art lovers, buyers and artists, both upcoming and established, from all over the world. Together with Amsterdam-based publisher bookstore MENDO, they published the book New Renaissance, which you can see here, and it's quite a big deal actually. And this book features 15 international artists in their studio. But what does New Renaissance mean for the art world? That's what I'm going to talk about with two artists that are featured in the book, but also the two guys who are responsible for making this, and they are joined us here at the table. A very warm welcome to you, Christian Luiten. Nice, thank you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
From Avant Arte.
A very nice intro.
Yeah, that's something about that I practice. And Gunifort Uwambaga from MENDO. Great to have you. We're going to talk about the book and your collaboration in a minute, but first I would like to introduce you both to the public who do not know you yet, because I think both of your life stories, so to speak, are relevant into what created this. Because in a sense you were both outsiders of the art world, and now you presented this book that is, consists of a new generation of artists, the artists to keep in check. Can I start with you, Christian?
Yeah, of course.
You're 27.
Yes.
You were born in the big city of Almere.
Yep.
You didn't study art history.
No.
You didn't follow art education, and it's easy to say that you didn't really have a connection with art stemming from your youth.
Yeah, true.
But still, because of the artists, musical artists you admired, you were lured into art.
Yeah.
And that was because of lyrics and references that they made on their covers. Can you take us back to that moment that you discovered the relevance of art through the artists that you liked?
Yeah, I think it's quite, when we talk in the press or whatever, we say this like it's Kanye West and JC, and it's because JC made this song Picasso Baby, and he was referring to Francis Bacon, Rothko, and Picasso, and Basquiat, and that's kind of, I know it's kind of good story to say like we got it from there, and it is kind of, we got it from hip hop, but it was like a slower process. Like I think rappers like to rap about like expensive things, mm-hmm. and art is like one of those things, but also there was a Dutch rapper, and we were here in Amsterdam, and it's like Sef, his name, and he made a song, The Renaissance Man. It's funny that he kind of say it, and he calls him, I don't know if it was that song, but he's talking about Damien Hirst, and he called himself Seth Koons. Seth Koons.
Right.
And I always thought it was Seth Goon. Because hip hop, goon means like a gangster and stuff. And I was like, why does Seth call himself a goon? Because he is quite, like, for a rapper, he's quite nice and, I don't know, he doesn't seem like a gangster and selling drugs or whatever. Yeah. He's not rapping about that. And then he was an interview on the radio, and he said, like, oh, I call myself Seth Koons. And then the interviewer was, I think, Line 5 with Fans and Jiggy J, and they were asking like, what does it mean? And he was like, oh, that's an artist. It's Jeff Koons. And that's when I started Googling, and like all those kind of little references. What was the trigger? Because rappers reference a lot of stuff. Yeah. What was the trigger that you were interested in who Jeff Koons was? Yeah, I think there were those kind of art. Like I was also interested in if they were rapping about Raf Simons, but I think there were all those kind of things. And then I think there was like one definite moment was Rothko. I think like also Kanye tweeted like, guys, check out these Rothko paintings. And then there was a show in the Den Haag Museum, and I went there. It was my first time going to a museum, and it was a Rothko show. And I went to that Rothko show, and then there was in the permanent collection, I also was seeing the permanent collection. There was a George Condo painting, and I was there with my mom, and I said like, hey, that's George Condo. She's like, well, how do you know, right? Because George Condo he's not like Van Gogh, right? Of course, he's well known in the art world, but like, Mom was, how do you know that? And as you said, I was not going to school, and I was not going to any school. So I had like, oh fuck, I can make my mom proud with like something that I know about.
Was this after My Beautiful Dark Twisted
Fantasy? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
After what? Give us a little bit of context.
The best album ever made by Kanye West. The artwork was done by George Condo. So it's just interested to know if that moment moment at the museum happened after Kanye's album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was the thing that, you got interested in it?
Yeah.
And then you wanted to share the knowledge as well. Where did that come from, that you wanted to share that with the world?
I think it's also coming from Almere, that there is nothing to do, and and like none of your friends are into art, and you can't go to gallery, you can't participate with your knowledge that you have, because also I didn't have the money.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's very in an unconscious way. You are like starting searching, you finding stuff, but you cannot do anything with it.
Yeah.
But then there was the internet, right? And then there was Tumblr, and there was Instagram. You could share basically like kind of what you found. And so that's kind of like how it went. But I think around that time was with Nalden. Like he was having his own blog. Like people like that were, and Nalden was also somebody that kind of talked like us, and like he was also, he didn't do school and stuff. So it kind of felt like
that maybe to have a little bit of context. His website Nalden was very influential in also presenting art. But he was also one of the founders of WeTransfer.
Exactly.
So it was.
But I was always like inspired by hip. But Nalden was also coming in this. He loved hip hop. Like he loved rappers and stuff. And I think he kind of inspired, I think, me at least, from like, oh, you can also be an entrepreneur, and you can also like art, and you can also
tell us, because there's a lot to be said, and we have to go through it quite quickly because we only have an hour.
Of course.
Tell us about Avant Arte. What was the basis of it, and what's the goal of it?
I think the big goal is that it's like taking people on that same journey of like, you don't need to come from an art city, you don't need to come from New York or to London to get into art and to learn about art and to even like buy art, to collect art.
But is that something that you were proud of? Because a lot of people think the art world and art as well is inaccessible because we don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
Did you feel that as something that held you back, or didn't you care about it at all?
No, in the beginning I didn't care about it, but later I was very naive. But I later also, even like there was an article published and we posted on our Instagram about this article, and then all the comments, and then were like the most liked comments was like, and the quote of the article was like, it was a Financial Times article, was like, these two Dutch kids are disrupting the art world, and something like that. And then the comments were like, the most liked comments were like, because they got rich parents, because they are.
Have you got rich parents?
They're no, not at all. I come from Almere, but like because
that says it's all. You come from Almere.
But like, oh, they're privileged, like, and all those comments. And I was in the weekend. I was like, why do people need to hate? Like, why do people need to be so not nice? Basically, why
was that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think because, and then I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool that they say it, because it's very normal to think like, if you make it in the art world, you need to come from those families, or you need to come from like a rich background, or you need to come from New York. And I think that's kind of gave us also motivation of like, hey, yeah, in like 5 years from now, it should be totally normal to be in the art world and to feel comfortable there without feeling stupid. And I think that's really what we are trying to do. Like we want to get people in there and don't feel. I feel that you should feel stupid sometimes, because that's the only way you can learn, right? Like if you know everything, like there's nothing to learn.
But what's the secret of the success? Because the fact that you were mentioned in the Financial Times or in the Forbes 30 under 30, I mean, that is something to be very proud of. But what was the secret of people noticing you?
I think that's kind of like, there was social media. It was like kind of, we were sharing art, and a lot of people started following it, and it became big. And then we started to collaborate also with artists on doing editions and sculptures and works on paper.
But it really sounds so easy. It took a lot of work. What did the work consist of?
I don't know. I think
What's the biggest challenge? What was the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge, I think, especially with collaborating with artists, that every artist wants to be on a platform with other big artists. Like everybody's looking like, would I want to work? Like, I think it's the same. Like even when you host conversation, it's like, who's going to be in the conversation? Like, who are the other guests, right? I think it's the same with artists, but in the artists it's even extreme. So people want to show at the Stedelijk Museum because Matisse just did an exhibition a couple of years ago, and Jordan Wolfson did an exhibition there, and many others. So I think it's a lot about like getting those names on your platform and being associated with you, and that's very hard in the beginning when you don't know anybody.
How did you convince them?
I I think there was like we had a reach that like they don't that the normal traditional art world didn't have. So they were like, oh, like this is funny. They have a lot of Instagram followers. They're quite young. I'm not sure like but like they have an audience that we don't have. And Instagram started to take off and became like very important also for artists. And people were like, oh, but we don't have that audience. We don't like. And then we were the only option.
And a final question for you for now. In the beginning, who were you the proudest of that you could reel them in? The first biggest achievement?
First, yeah, it was definitely Psycho Chang. He's also in this book. And he's a Chinese artist living in New York. And he's painting with gunpowder, I would say, and the sky is his canvas. And there are, yeah, I mean, I think I would recommend everybody to watch his documentary on Netflix.
And how did you convince him to be?
Yeah, it's quite like, I think I went to his studio. I was in New York, and I DM'd on Instagram. He started following us. I was like, hey, I'm in New York, can I come to your studio? And he was like, yeah, sure. And then I was there, and I was like, and he was really nice, and he found it cool what we were doing. And then he was, but I don't do auditions, I don't do prints, I don't do anything. And I was like, yeah, we would love to work. He's like, oh, I also would love to work with you guys. Maybe do a video. And then we went. And then we did a video, and I was to my partner, I was like, we need to do everything we can to make him feel guilty, that we need to do something really good that he wants to do in addition. Yeah. So he did a documentary with Netflix, but like for like a 2-minute video that we did with him, we had more people on the set. Wow. I think we spent it like, I don't know, it was 50K or 60K on our bank account, and we spent 30K on just a video without getting, just for 2 minutes on Instagram. Yeah. And then he was, and I always remember he was like, after the end, he was like, oh, there's a lot of people here, like maybe we should do an edition. Oh wow! And that kind of was our first.
Where did you get the 30K from?
I mean, we were selling editions. We went well, but we're not the big artist. Yeah. But yeah, that was kind of like incredible that because it was also his first kind of edition that he did. And he's such a big artist, and after that, it became easier to like approach other artists and do something.
That's a great story. We will return to you in a moment, Gunifort. Yes. Let's go to you. You're the co-owner of MENDO Books. That's a bookstore and a publishing house as well, and you focus on visually aesthetic, beautiful, great books. I mean, I really admire your collection in that sense. You were born in Rwanda, and when you were 8 years old, I believe, when your family fled to the Netherlands. And what's interesting that you studied to be a banker and worked as a banker when you started to work at MENDO's. Briefly, but still, it's a very different direction than the art world. And just like Christian, you can be considered to be a newcomer. What was it for you to get involved with the art world?
So, as you said, I was already working in a bookstore, and through the bookstore, I got a lot of exposure to the arts and artists and that concept. But I think my love for art, or interest in art, is quite similar to Christian's for a large part. You know, I'm from a town literally like 15 minutes from from where he's from.
Were you bored as well, like Christian?
No, definitely. I wasn't bored. My art for love didn't come from boredom. I believe personally it came from the following things. You know, when we came to the Netherlands as refugees, I understood this concept. You know, we get to school on Monday, and everybody tells what they did in the weekends. And kids were talking about, I went to a museum with my parents, etc. So I was like, what is this concept that everybody, goes to? So you come to find out, like, oh, art is something that hangs in amazing spaces, these grand buildings, and people pay money just to look at them, and other people pay even more money to purchase it. So I was like, whoa, this is what the richest people in the world want, and I can go and see it and consume it for free. I, at a young age, already understood, like, consuming art, you don't need money for it, you only need eyes, or maybe if it's a different art form, your other senses, right? So, but also Kanye and that whole movement had a big influence on me. They were the first rich black people I was in contact with, So They were rapping about Mercedes-Benzes and, Keith Haring art and, amazing fabrics and everything. And this is all stuff I've never had access to. And then seeing it being presented by somebody who looks like you and says like, okay, this is what I'm doing all of this for. Yeah, it was super enticing and exciting.
But it's interesting that you didn't become a car dealer, and you didn't become a fashion designer in that sense. You chose art from the whole palette that they presented. What was it with art that attracted?
Yes. So at the moment, as you can see behind you, I co-own a bookstore and I have a publishing company, right? So my medium is the book. I'm super in love with the medium, but it's not the only medium that I'm interested in. In a minute we'll have Raquel joining us, and we're also working on something together, but that's a different medium. So whether it's the canvas, the book, the podcast, the show, my personal not only obsession but interest is storytelling, right? Yeah. So I see the art world as a battle for stories, for story. So if you are a powerful artist, you can claim more space to tell your stories, for instance.
So talking about telling stories, the title is impressive, New Renaissance, and especially in the art world, the Renaissance is the new beginning of art as well. What do you consider to be the new Renaissance?
The time that we're living in at the moment.
Why is it? Because every time is interesting. Why is this the new Renaissance?
So me and Chris are almost laughing a little bit because this title got changed throughout the process.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of discussion, I remember. I mean, I'll let Gunny explain it, but I remember it as, I don't know, I was getting into like just the whole Renaissance that you like Google, like just finding out more around like the Renaissance time in general, right? Like Leonardo da Vinci and stuff. And then you're like, whoa, like these guys, they did a lot of stuff. And like they're Renaissance men. And now like maybe somebody that is DJing and doing a T-shirt and makes a painting, we already call Renaissance man. And like, you guys, you know what these guys did like back? But then I think, yeah, Gunny was like, no, it's a good title because.
Can I say the previous title or working title?
Yeah.
So we started out with Today's Masters.
Yeah.
Because the conversation between me and Christian was, okay, we're in this art creative world. But who are like the Picassos of today? Who are the Van Goghs?
Because you told me that was the thing that you ask people from the art world as well. You ask them who is the new Picassos, who are the new masters. And the funny thing is, they didn't have an answer.
Yeah, or they had different answers. And it's like, how can this be so subjective?
Yeah.
Like, who are today's masters? So we set out very ambitiously as like, we're going to make the publication that presents to the world like who the masters or some of the masters are today. Yeah. And gradually, this book took almost 2 years to make, and not 2 years to produce, but I believe it's 2 years of conversations and dialogue that took the process so long. All of a sudden we realized like, we have a beautiful list of names, but maybe it's not diverse enough, or maybe, we haven't covered that part of the world, or we have a blind eye here. And throughout those discussions, we realized the following things. There's a redistribution happening of space, of attention in the art world. So
democratization almost of the art world.
Exactly, and for me, the full circle moment was that Christian, with his platform, is not only doing that, but is a leader within that movement. So with their platform, they democratize art. Yeah. So you can purchase art made by the best artists in the world, but on affordable, in a more affordable price point, right? So it's almost saying a fuck you to the gallery system, if I may say so.
Is it?
No. I need to work with them.
This is being recorded, right?
Right.
I'm sorry.
It's in English.
And what the thing is?
No. I'd like to be honest. Like, it's not at all like. I need to know. No, it's for like. I think we have like a lot of respect for the galleries. I think a lot of times, especially from the outside, it feels like, oh, there are the guys who take 50% of the artists. But I think, as a lot of artists in this book also will tell us, like the galleries are like super supportive, and they're. Besides Psycho Chang, there are not a lot of artists who can make it in the art world without a gallery. I would say Psycho Chang is maybe the only one.
But, did you do something, because art is considered to be very Eurocentric, did you do something about that vision or that frame of reference, and how did you go about it?
Eurocentric?
Eurocentric, yeah.
Yeah, to answer your question, I would say we didn't do something about the Eurocentric nature of the art world in our book. So it's not a reaction towards something, towards a certain status quo. No, we recognize that there's a changing of guards and changing of attention span, a changing of all of that. And this book is basically making a case for that.
Yeah, what I think also is really important, why I got like, yeah, maybe New Renaissance is a good title, is because I feel even this book is very eclectic in terms of choices of artists. So there are like very popular artists like Daniel Arsham, who is also selling shoes or toys or whatever, and then David Almeid, who is like make everything with his own hands.
Favorite artist.
Yeah, like it's the artist basically. Yeah. And I think there are a lot of very different type of artists. And I think a lot of people always ask like, yeah, but like how? And then I think what we say a lot is like, oh, we come from the Spotify generation, right? Where you're not only listening to hip hop, but also you listen to rock, or you can listen to like classical music and stuff, and because we can try out everything like very easily, we don't need to pay $10 to get a CD, and then you need to just be right. Like we can try a lot of new things, and then think that's why I think the new generation, the new Renaissance, also thinks not only if like, oh, you can only like the conceptual artists, like you can like more stuff.
Let's have a look and a closer look at one of the artists that is featured, and that is Tanjiwe Nikki Nkosi. We're very interested in the decision you made why to include that artist into the book. Is anybody able to explain?
Yeah, and Tanji, I think especially this shoot is like incredible shoot. Beautiful. So she's an artist from South Africa. Yeah. She studied in America, but she lives now in Kaapstad, I believe. And yeah, I think she's like an incredible painter. I'm just like very proud to have her in the book and to work with her. I think she.
But what makes her incredible?
I think especially like how she kind of paints with the She started out with more the. How do I say it? Architectural works. What was has a lot to do around the time in South Africa, where I think a lot of the buildings are still based on the apartheid. Like a lot of it's coming from there. And I think how she paints, and then she started to paint figurative paintings, and like was only figures on figures. And I think if you see here in these paintings, where the gymnastic paintings are basically a combination between the two, and you can see the kind of flow of like her career. And I can also see, I would love to see a retrospective about her work, how you can see everything changing. And then here also the gymnastic paintings are very about her or like these people in the buildings that are being made in like the apartheid, and also, but not only about that, also around like the figures being judged by the juries. If you can see the piece on the right top, where she also feels her as an artist is being judged in just in the art world, right? Where other people are being judged, and also her as like a woman, and like I think. Yeah, I think she's just like an incredible artist. I think she's going to have like a very
Are the
career.
choices based on your own taste, or did you take, the consideration of experts in account as well? What was the motivation?
Yeah, I think everything has been a discussion and has been our own choices, but there are also conversations in this book with Hans-Ulrich Obrist, who's one of the I think best curators of our time. So you also have conversations with those people, like who do you think is a good artist and whatever. But I think the kind of decisions have always been, have we made.
For you, who will be or is the new Van Gogh or Picasso?
Oh, that's. I'd say Raquel van Haver, since she's in the room today.
Since she's joining us at the table.
But we would need a separate show for that, an hour show, for me to make the comparisons between Raquel's work and the original Dutch masters. But just to
let's make a date right here, right now. We are going to do that here.
Go there, but I wanted to add to what Christian was saying about Tanisha's work, also why she's in the book. Or your analysis, which I also love. She works with a lot of polarizations or dichotomies. So in the work that we have in the book that she was working on during that studio visit and the edition she made with Christian, you see black figures that are doing gymnastics, right? Wearing the traditional, French ballet tutus, etc. And while that might not be something special to write about at home, but this image is very estranging for, I believe, a lot of black people, because this couldn't be a picture. We don't have pictures of 12 ballet dancers with camera crews around them, right? So for me, that's one of the things that I found so strong in her work is, by not using too much, placing you in what maybe apartheid might have felt, or maybe the situation she's currently is.
Yeah, and I think also the gymnics, like it's just like also abstract, like a beautiful place. Like if you just look now at the kind of the paintings, I think that's also what art should do. It should like make you conscious of things that are unconscious most of the time, and I think that's what great art is doing. So yeah.
Great. I would like to invite Raquel van Havert and Avant Arte here to the table. And while they're making their way here, I would like to ask you guys, there's only 999 copies made of this book. Why?
Because we like to have it limited, like all the editions we are doing are limited, but we still want to have like a lot of people that could like kind of buy it. So 1,000 is still, I think, is a lot for. So I mean, I don't know if the number is like an exact the reason for it, but we thought like we wanted to have.
You're the publisher. You should.
I do have a publisher answer for you. So we talked about the concept of Avant Arte, making art a little bit more democratic, making it more available to a wider audience, whether the actual product or the stories behind it. And with the book, we wanted even to put an extra gear in that and make something, it's currently €100 available on MENDO.nl. That's actually
the plug.
Even more available to a larger.
I think normally we do with the editions, for example, we did with Drift we do 50.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Thank you for now. Welcome to you, Ralph and Raquel. Just to introduce you, Ralph Nauta, you're part of and founder of Studio Drift. You're featured in the book as well. And with Lonneke Gordijn, you collaborate and you are the driving force behind Studio Drift. We can see your work in the Stedelijk Museum, but also above the Eye River, where we saw this huge swarm of drones. That was. I wasn't there because I was not allowed to, but I spoke to Lonneke about it. And what I think is very interesting. You are the first artists that share their failures as equal as their successes, because I understood that 3 weeks before you did the drones at Burning Man, they all fell down from the sky, and that was quite stressful, wasn't it?
Well, I normally don't share that, but she apparently does.
I never heard this story.
Right. Oh, that was amazing. And
that was a moment. Yeah.
But you succeeded, and you're featured here in the book as well. And what you research in your work is the relationship between nature, human, technology, and the tension between those two, which you were very successful in. And of course, you had an exhibition in the Stedelijk Museum as well. So just a short introduction about who you are.
Thank you.
Raquel van Havert, a warm welcome to you. You graduated from the Art Academy in Utrecht in 2012. You make impressive, huge paintings that are very that have got a relief on it, and you were featured in numerous exhibitions, but also at the Stedelijk Museum, and most recently in Bonnefante Museum in Maastricht, where I thoroughly enjoyed your amazing room that was exhibited in a dome, and your works resembled the dome as well. And what I thought was amazing that we can't share on a live stream is that the scent of your paintings when you entered the dome was overwhelming and hypnotizing and beautiful as well. So thank you for creating that. Well, that's enough feathers for you. Did you know about Avant Arte before you were approached to be in the book?
Oh yeah, for sure. I met Christian a while ago at Soho House actually, and I was introduced to this young kid, and they introduced me to him like this super force in the art world, and I never had heard of him before. And then you just started talking, and I was like, okay, this guy knows what's up, and we started having conversations, and we saw each other around the world at art fairs, bumped into each other, and then this friendship started. Also because both were from the Netherlands, and
I almost thought you were both from Almere, but that's not the case.
No. That's no. Luckily not. Sorry. No, but so you're just traveling the world, and then obviously you kind of find each other like as Dutchies in this very strange world that is the art world, and and then you start hanging out, and then the conversations happen, and now I'm in the book, so it's pretty cool.
And is the disruption that was mentioned before, have you got the feeling that through them making their art accessible, that they are disrupting the art world?
Yeah, they definitely do, but it's more like what you said before, it's kind of disrupting indeed the gallery model, but in a different way than you would think. It's more, as an artist, when you're signed by a certain gallery, you can't make crossovers, right? I mean, it's like almost like the enemy, and you can't do a show there where even if you would like to have a show at a different gallery. But with Christian, what I noticed, like he became friends with all these galleries because, and all these galleries wanted to work with him, and I was like, okay, this is very interesting, and how does he do that as a young kid new on the scene, and so yeah, that blew my mind. So it made me very interested in what he's doing, and then looking at the roster of artists that he represents. And the work that they pulled off, I mean, was a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think also, there was especially on that title. It's like we don't want to be known as like disruptors or something. I think also the art world, I don't think it can be disrupted.
Why not?
It was more like friends, man. So like also to all the people, and it was just a friendly, easygoing position, and that he created for himself without, galleries being competitive to each other or something. So I think very interesting. I
think the art world cannot be disrupted because it's like not like how Uber disrupted the cab drive industry, or like how Airbnb in
I wonder, because I know from other conversations that Raquel and I had as well, is that the art world can be disrupted because some systems in the art world aren't that, well, not that good, are they?
Yeah, but I think as well what you're doing, and amongst, let's say, we're all artists here, we're all creators, there is this friend zone, we are all, come on. But there's this friend zone we are all in, right? Like we sit down, like now we are like being all beautiful and fine and well-spoken, but like after this, we're gonna hang out. Probably we will talk for 2 hours, 3, 4, 5 hours, and then we become friends again. And I think in the art world, what you see, especially what the younger generation is doing, they become friends with everybody. So now you can see actually the overlapping part from one gallery to the other one, one museum to the other one, and as well in creating, like as well what you guys are doing, and guys are genius in doing that. It's not like, oh, we stay with painting, or oh, we stay only with doing something with drones, or we're doing something with sound. No, you guys take everything and put it in one thing. And that's exactly what you're doing as well. And that's beautiful. So don't think it's like really disrupting, but actually giving it a better new form. And people like it.
I think. But it scares me as well. What you say scares me as well. From when you consider to be an outsider, because you are right. We are going to probably stay here and talk for 2 hours, and we do know each other, or we are friends. But still, aren't we excluding in the same way that you felt maybe when you entered the art world? Isn't it just a select elitist group that like each other a lot and then keep others out?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I hate to say it, but I think in one way you're right. In a way that's why I'm saying I think disruption is why I want to say the art world is hard to disrupt is because it's all about relationships. Yeah. And it's even like buying art is it's an emotional thing. It's like it's not something on Amazon you put in your cart and you buy. I think like if a lot of times also with collectors, like you have a personal relationship with somebody that has your painting and they're gonna live with it, and artists put like a lot in it. It's not like an H&M t-shirt or whatever. Like that's just, there's a lot of like emotion, I think, going into it, why it's always a lot about relationships. But I think what we can do is I think the world is so small, like the art world is just really, really tiny. And as kind of what Rolf was saying, like we hang out because we all go to the same art fair, and there's just one plane where everybody can be on, and it's always the same people and stuff.
And if that crashes, the whole art world died.
Only the Dutch part.
Yeah. Only the Dutch part.
But it's very tiny, and I think what we can do is at least make it bigger and make it more welcoming and like have more people in it. And
well, that's the thing. Are we really doing that? Because democratizing the art world, making the art world more democratic, isn't it just creating a new bubble, a new exclusive bubble bubble in this way, where
I hope not. I hope not. But I think it will be a bigger bubble. Like I think more people can get into it, and like from different, different backgrounds. I think what we're already seeing is like. Is somebody from Lelystad and somebody from here can make something, a book like this with some incredible artists in it. So I think it's happening, but when I say I think it's slowly happening, and
No, actually,
you're trying.
I understand where you're pushing back a little bit, because I personally do feel that the art world can be disrupted and is actually being disrupted, but perhaps the focus shouldn't be on the business case and how money is moved around. But you guys are disrupting it since your conversations are on Clubhouse nowadays. And a couple of weeks ago, I was seeing hundreds of kids listening into the industry insiders. That free flow of information, because I feel information is what caused the old elitist class.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest disruption that happened. And you are not with the business case Avant Arte, but with Christian, what you do in the art world and what you represent in the art world, it's the biggest disruption in a very big time. This book basically, for me, you asked earlier, like what makes Avant Arte different? I could say Christian, and I could go one step forward to say it's this concept of studio visits, right?
Yeah.
So, from the early beginning, what Christian did is visit artists in their studios, talk to them, understand the processes, etc. But different to maybe the curators that came before him, he shares it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is how it looks, this is the process, this is the information. So, I personally feel we are all disrupting the art world by having these conversations and by...
So it's about building personal relations, but also sharing the stories that are related to that.
Exactly.
Talking about New Renaissance, because you're included in the book, how do you position yourself through that term, New Renaissance? Is that something you identify with? Ralph, can I start with you?
I think so, yeah. But throughout time, and like what you said before, I mean, there's always these periods when new movement starts because pushed by new technologies. It was also Van Gogh who started painting differently and not realistic anymore because photography was a thing, and he was scared of his career, so he started to develop a different way of expressing himself. So. And now again, I mean, it's happening. Even platforms like Clubhouse are generating a change and opening up.
Why are they? Why is some?
Because suddenly you can reach a different crowd. Like you're in a Clubhouse group, and you're talking to the real Wolf of Wall Street because he's like. He got called up, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. So you wouldn't have normally those conversations with these people, and and it also opens up their mind because they're listening into conversations that they normally wouldn't hear, and so.
And how would you position yourself to the other artists that are featured in the book? Because you can consider to be establishment, or can't you?
Well, thank you. I don't know, what is the term of establishment here?
Well, you've arrived. Everybody knows you, admires you. The fact that you had a solo exhibition at the Stedelijk Museum means that you acquired a certain status within the art world, and it was a success as well. So that is, nobody questions you.
When they called you established.
That was not.
He always does that, man. Like I walk around with this guy on art fairs, and I'm trying to make a deal, and he steps in, and whatever.
No, but that's the thing. I mean, and it's something that I don't think it's something to be ashamed of. But it's like, how do you position yourself within this whole palette of New Renaissance artists?
To be honest, I haven't seen the book yet.
I did not deliver it.
He didn't deliver it yet.
Oh, that's a great
thing. So I'm very excited to see it. But
well, we've seen here. We've got the page of Raquel in her studio. How do you connect to the term New Renaissance?
I guess like it's difficult to talk about yourself as something like that. We know.
I can talk about you and you about me if you want. Like.
Yeah, let's do that. Can we do that? Like,
how do
this
you
guy's amazing. No, but the thing is, I think like we both are doing, and actually all the artists, they're both doing their own thing. They're just busy with their own relations towards their communities or to their stories, and to make that change involved in their own society. And by bringing them all together, because I think that's now what it's about, artists combining together. Like, for example, I just got from a plane from Ghana, and I meet my artist friends there, and later we will meet each other in London. Like, we all one big family, and we talk about the things we want to change. We talk about new techniques. We talk about a lot. So it's just not only if you talk about a Eurocentric image of the art world, it's not that anymore. So if people still talk about it, forget it, because like we all interconnected with each other, and I think if you understand what it's about, talking about the overlapping forms in techniques or in the talks and in history, I think that's the new Renaissance then. Yeah.
And defining that in a new way. Do you agree with that?
I so much agree with that, you know, because you highlighted multiple techniques, right? You highlighted this global interconnectivity. I wanted to say something about Rolf real quick, and I'll jump to you. You know, what makes Studio Drift in this book from all other artists that are in here even more Renaissance in the traditional sense of the world is the fact that you guys are multi-hyphenates, right? So I like to make the comparison to like a Leonardo da Vinci, you know, these engineers, artists, painters, even with the hair. So for me, that's what Studio Drift almost represents in this book. You know, they didn't use the paintbrush; they're using drones, and they're using, oh man, this dandelion is amazing. For Raquel, I see her almost as having the same set of rules as the Golden Age masters back then, you know? She's going out into the world, discovering, like, going to Ghana, coming back, saying, like, this is the exciting stuff that's happening there. Yeah. And, all giving it a shape and sort of a traditional signature. For me, you guys are true main players in this new Renaissance.
Is it also about narrative? Because in the work of Raquel, you share in the traditional art institutions a new narrative, and you do create new icons as well.
Yeah, but I think as well we all take our own background with us. So for me, for example, my part is then Colombian. If you look at Colombian art, especially street art, it's very political. And I see quite some similarities if I look at my paintings to the history of street art in Latin America itself, but also because I have, like, I brought up here in the Netherlands, I can actually mix that. So I always say, like, it's very traditional if you look at, like, how I work with my paints, but then next to it I can also take the things that are very political, things that are going and moving on right now. And I think as well with you, like, you also come from a background understanding, like, the story, actually what you told us before, and Jürgen, you the same, like we're all dealing with our own history here, and we like now trying to frame it again in a new narrative amongst our others.
Well, but what's interesting about your work and the comparison you made about the Colombian work is that activism is a big part of your work, and what's interesting as well is that the big work you made for the Amsterdam Museum features activists as new icons, and that's added in an institution like the Amsterdam Museum, which is interesting, and I collaborate with them as well, but it's in an institution like that, it's like this huge step.
Yeah, but the weirdest part for me, like, I think it was 15 years ago or something, and I was in Medellin, and I went to this museum, and they had a show about portraiture, 17th century something, with people from a Afro something background. And they just, I think maybe half the museum was filled with these paintings, and they took them from all around the world, and I was shocked. This is like, this is not like where I come from, and this is also not how I see society. So then that's where I actually started to make more paintings about me and my friends and my own society. And I felt all of a sudden people really got angry with that. At school, they were telling me, you should paint more white people. I was like, what? But you already have so many paintings, so please, can I? But people also were scared for it's paint, come on. It's just, but like to think about how people actually react on images. So that's where also the idea of like a role model started to pop in. Like, we all have these role models, but they all are Yeah,
Yeah.
sort of. Why Jesus?
Create.
Yeah. So the idea was then to actually put my friends in that place to be role models, because they were role models for me. So why shouldn't they be for somebody else? And so that's the whole concept started to pop in, to actually just make paintings of my friends and everybody else.
Yeah. In a moment, I would like to talk about online presence, and you're both active online as well. So I'd like to learn more about that. But my final question concerning this topic to you, Ralph, is: do you feel activist in your own work, or how do you position yourself in a changing society where activism is so common ground at the moment?
I do see myself as making work that is trying to set people on a different foot, or show them a different path, or in that way, for sure. I mean, we use technology to reconnect people with their natural environment. We use it in a way that doesn't distance us from our natural world, but put you back in tune, in frequency with your surroundings. And actually, when I started this path with my partner, I had quite a long thought about it. I used to be very negative. I used to make work that was at the academy that was always reacting on something and then pointing something out. And for example, I was so done with commercials around me that it didn't have anything to do with me. So I made these lines for blind people. I made braille in these lines that they could read with their foot, that had nothing to do with them. So like they would read Oakley or Glass or Volvo, like a car brand, something that is irrelevant, and just to show how far commercialism can go. And then I thought, okay, I can endlessly point out these flaws in society, or I can try to work on a solution, so show something positive, and trying to take people on that journey. So I chose that path, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah. And it criticizes in that sense as well. There's one story I would like you to share with us, because I think that's very, it gives an insight in the way you think as an artist, because you do work on the relationship between technology and art. Like I said, approximately 3 weeks before you had a presentation at Burning Man, the drones fell down the sky. If I'm correct, about a week before you did the presentations, all the drones worked, but it didn't work. Can you explain what that step was from? They flew and they did what you want them to do, but it wasn't the thing that you wanted it to do.
I mean, we always work with technology that we co-develop ourselves. So it's not like we take something from the shelf and we adapt it and make it work with it. So in the case of the drone, so you're like years and years working on this tech, and you don't know how it reacts in certain situations. So we were testing it in Germany with our partner Intel, and it was freaking cold, and then suddenly all the some elements in one of the chips just fried, and like we had 300 drones just falling on the concrete, and just like, and I had somebody with me, and it was like, oh, this is so beautiful. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? It's like 1,500 a pop. Like, come on, like, it was insane. So, but then, luckily with working with a partner as Intel, we could solve the problem and then, ship them out.
But when the problem was solved and when they finally flew, they didn't do what you wanted it to do.
Well, that's always another thing. So you can think about something, and then you look at a screen what you've been developed. So you saw the algorithms, you create the animation, you see the animations, like, okay, it looks great, and then you fly it physically, and then we were with these engineers, and engineers think very differently than artists. So I could see what was happening, and then it just didn't resonate. So I was like, fuck, is this 10 years of work for? Like I'm not feeling anything, so I was very disappointed.
And the engineers thought they were flying.
Well, yeah, because they had the brief and they were doing exactly what was written down. So and then, so they were happy. They wanted to go home, and then we had to convince them. So no, we have to fly another four nights until it works. And then, we kind of solved it with programming the light differently, so you felt the G-forces in the cornering when it was going around, and. And then finally, when that it was actually before Miami when we flew it in 2017. We actually saw it for the first time, and people were crying next to us. I'm like, fuck this, yeah.
Yeah, well, why I wanted you to explain that is that's the artist part of it as well, that technology can work and technology can do what was written down, but that doesn't make art. Art makes it when it resonates with the artist or with the audience, and spending time with that and taking risks in that sense. This is something that I find very interesting as well. Like I said, online presence, you created an audience by being present online. You both are very active online as well, at least on Instagram. You can follow everything that you do almost on Instagram. How does that influence your work as an artist?
I think especially it's about sharing. So I love to share my process. It's also one time, one of the galleries I was working with was like, why are you sharing everything? He was so annoyed by me sharing. I was like, yeah, but this is how, like, I need to know what Gunifort is doing. I need to know what Christian is doing. Not when it's done, but I love to see the process, because the process is so much more worth than just the end result. You can buy it, it's fine, but it's about me being or sharing a story or understanding why you actually picked out that image. So for me, it's just sharing with the world what I see, because I normally, in the end, when you come to a show, I try to put all my emotions and everything I've been through in that product, in that show. But sometimes a research takes more than 5 years. So I need to show you those 5 years to understand the end result. And I would like to take everybody on that journey with me, because it's also about a learning process. If I go to Colombia, travel around, meet people, understanding their stories, and also my own background. It's interesting also for everybody here on the table to listen to, because next time we can have another conversation and you learn something. So I think that's especially what social media does for me.
Right.
I think that's also why like this book is about studio visits. I think exactly that. I think that's what at the end of the day is like so interesting. It's not always about the final piece. It's around the road to that final piece.
Right.
I wanted to add to what you both said, that I now realize by you saying like the process of 5 years, and you know it makes the end result so much better, that that is what social media is enabling, right? So if the process is so tied to the value of art, so I'm immediately thinking of Beeple, who just sold for like 70 million euros or dollars this NFT. But this art piece, I was breaking my head like, why is it worth so much? And I'm seeing so less there. But it's also has to do with the fact that the process is so enticing and so clear. You know, the guy made a drawing every day for whatever 10 years and sold the cumulative of that as digital art. So yeah, I super feel you that showing the process nowadays is as important maybe as the end result, because by seeing Raquel's process, I know that she doesn't, you know, just sit at home and think of like, let me paint some bar in Lagos. No, she goes there, she talks to the people, and the same goes with Studio Drift.
Is it the same for you guys? Is that the reason why you use social media as well, or is there another reason?
Yeah, it's definitely the main reason. But I mean, you do need like some digital content for people to find you. You know, like otherwise, indeed, you can't explain your stories. But through your following, you also create dialogue. You can, curators can reach out, or you can find your collector base, and I mean, you have to be visible. And
is it more than a marketing tool for you guys?
Yeah, for sure.
And what's the added value? The conversation that you mentioned, or something else?
Yeah, definitely. Like the surprising connections that you make, like that you couldn't otherwise make. Can
you give an example of that?
Yeah, I can't tell. Yeah, but there's a museum in the States that we're talking now to a curator that found us through Instagram. So, and you also see. That if you have a large following, you reach a lot of different people.
I think museums are more and more looking at it also. So when they
it's not always positive, to be honest.
It's not always positive.
Well, why isn't it?
Of course, there's also a lot of crap out there, and if you're just doing the right thing at the right time, or you're taking somebody else's content that they worked on for decades, and you just tweak it a little bit, and you just put all your time in your marketing.
I think why it's negative is also because there was so much work. It looks so much better in person than on screen, and also the other way around. And I think. And I think that's kind of probably the most negative part. But I wanted to say was around museums. I think also museums are knowing I know the museums are going open now, and I think a lot of them need to sell tickets, right? Because there's not much funding and stuff. Yeah. And if you're gonna do a show with an artist who has 1 million Instagram followers, you're probably gonna sell some tickets. Yeah. So I think it's gonna get. And I think people don't want to say it, of course, but I think it's definitely going to be important.
Important in that sense as well.
What do you guys think of people putting out the fake process? I'm not going to name names, but...
Ooh, now I'm very curious. Who puts out the fake process?
Ralph knows exactly who he's talking about.
You also know.
Tell us who.
Have to be political on this one.
After specific artists, but we can say it's about trends that maybe you can see in the art world. So I've been looking at the social media thing. So yes, it gives you the power to show your process, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we have to, me as a consumer, I just take everything at face value and think, okay, this is the real process. But if it's so influential to the perception of...
Well, and the thing, it's marketing. We talked about Jeff Koons. He's a star in marketing as well. Yeah. So why is it bad in that sense?
So that's why I want to ask the real...
Well, because he kind of he did, in his way, he invented his thing, But if you do something Jeff Koonish, that's not creativity. That's
but a fake process. Who cares if the process is true or fake? What does that matter?
I do a lot.
Why?
Because it determines the course of our culture.
Yeah.
And if you have the wrong players, on the ball, determining where we go with our society. And we're not going the right direction. Then why the fuck are we doing all of this?
Do you agree?
Yeah, listen, it's about writing history, and if somebody just writes...
We all know, talking about history, that history isn't really what happened.
True.
But who is writing it?
Yeah.
That's the thing, and if we all believe that perfect pink balloon is going up, but just somebody holds it or whatever, but we believe it's the truth, then the next upcoming whatever decades, we all go that direction. So I think we should also be true to... So I'm not
I have a question. You said your gallery didn't like that you were posting stories. Do you know why? Or do you think they want to keep control of the narrative or whatever? Or do you think it's just they don't want you to post, so collectors already want to have the or do you think you get too much power on your own as an artist?
I think it's from all parts a little. Yeah.
Interesting.
We've entered the final stages of this conversation. This hour flew by very quickly. You mentioned it very briefly as well. The final topic I want to touch on very quickly is NFTs. Is that something that you understand, and is that going to be the future of art, the ownership of digital art in that sense?
It was funny. I was just with Rolf talking about it because I kind of noticed it. Was it December last year or something?
Yeah, oh my God.
So 5 months ago, and I was like, oh fuck, this is going to be a thing.
I told you to build that platform.
Yeah, and Rolf was like, fuck the normal art world, it's all gonna be NFTs, build it tomorrow and stuff. And I think, it kind of blew up. I think we didn't expect it. You also didn't expect it. It was going so quickly.
It went very fast.
It went very fast. But
is it a good development, Rolf? What do you think?
I don't know. It's just a different arm of the art world now. It will have a lot of influence on what's going on. I think it has to mature. Obviously, the quality sometimes is just weird. It's just more about who does something the first, and everybody's trying to jump on that because you buy it for 70, but they speculate to buy it for sell it for $1 billion. That's why they get into it. It's not about the quality of the work.
It's about money. And in that sense, but it's good for the artist because I understood that the artist gets 10% of every sale that's happening.
Yeah, it's in that way for the system. I think it's very good because at the moment it's not healthy.
Why isn't it?
Because at the moment I think the galleries are taking too much for most artists, and there's too much pressure for the artists. I think as artists you should be an individual person that actually can take all the creativity and the space that they want to have, and with guidance sometimes.
I think
it should be like that.
I think it matters what the gallery does for you. Like if they
Yeah.
put you in the right museums and they have like 3 people working on your career.
How many galleries do that?
I mean, hey, like, you got,
That's true. That's true.
but I mean, you got like an amazing gallery. I mean, I think both, but I think from the one I know closest, like Pace Gallery, I think like also there's another artist in this book, Robert Nava, who just got picked up by Pace, and I think what you heard from those artists, like they help really artists to get, fulfill the dreams in a way, and getting into museums and getting into the right collections and stuff, and protecting your secondary market and blah blah. And what you're saying, there are not that many that can do that, but I think around NFTs, to come back on that, I think that can definitely change the art world. I think not only digital art but also NFTs with physical art, indeed, that you get a fee from your secondary market when something gets resold, or that you at least know where your pieces are. That I think that's already can change a lot.
What I find funny about that, because people talk about disruptive and everything, and then like now you can do whatever you want in this NFT world, and you already see it happen. I mean, the gatekeepers are already in place. You know, you have Nifty, you have Super Rare, you have a couple of others. It's not like you can give them a phone call and get on these platforms. So it's, again, just like creating just another bubble. But I guess it's just how the world works. You have your bubbles, and
I think people need curation. I think that's kind of also.
Do people need curation? That's the thing.
I think because there is more and more and more and more and more. We see more, like everybody can now post their pictures on Instagram and stuff, and there are more artists than ever, and there are more than digital artists than ever, and I think people are busier than ever. So
curation is a form of guidance to help people.
Yeah, exactly. Because like, where do you start? Other ways, and what I'm saying, not everybody has the opportunity that we have. That I can go to every studio of every artist and meet a lot of people and spend all my time of every day on finding new artists. Not everybody can do that, so people need, I think, curation and guidance. And but I mean, you should not like just trust somebody. Just
no.
But like, I think we should have people, right? That's.
Well, yeah, for sure. I think it's a question of finding the right curator that does it for the right reasons, and that you relate to, and that you can see like in the research that it's been done real, and
and finding the right gallery to represent.
I know you want to close, but I'm sitting on this feeling on NFTs that I just wanted to add to the conversation, right? Because we're focusing on NFTs from maybe artist point of view or scarcity point of view. For me, the bubble of NFTs is the proof that we are in a new renaissance. And please, I have a minute or something, so follow me on this one. So. Why is a painting being sold for a digital, non-fungible thing being sold for 70 million, right? And who has that kind of money? What's happening, what I feel, is a movement in importance of asset classes, right? So you have money in this world. You could purchase something with your fiat money, so your euro or your dollar. But man, those systems are crumbling, That way of storing value and exchanging value is crumbling, and there's obviously the blockchain technology brought in, that's the real disruption. So yes, at the moment there's a bubble, maybe because we have a couple thousand crypto billionaires and they don't know what to do with this, but I think it's too simple to look at it that way. I'm seeing it as people that are placing their bet behind a new idea, a new system, a new way of owning your art, a new way of selling your art, a new way of consuming the art. So I feel that's the importance of what's happening with NFTs.
Very beautiful. NFT of this book being sold.
Let's go, let's do it.
And then we all receive a percentage of it, right?
Yeah, no, for
it's your idea, so you take it, man.
Oh, right.
15%.
Exactly. Well, time is up, unfortunately. So there's the book, New Renaissance. It can be ordered through MENDO. And from a cheaper price at the moment for 100 euros. That will change. When will that change?
I'm going to look at Mr. Avant.
What was the question?
It's 100 euros now, but it's going to change, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's going to be 120.
Okay, so at the moment, the book is available at mendo.nl and our beautiful store in the city center of Amsterdam for 100 euros. Avant Arte will launch, I believe, in a couple weeks, and because their launches, everything sells out like this, we thought, we'll offer the Amsterdammers and locals an opportunity to buy it before it's live. And the price will most likely go up. And there might be even an art edition in the works that has something extra.
I want to have that one. All right, time is up. I want to thank the audience. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I thank you to all our guests for being here and sharing your stories and insights always.
Yeah, thank you for hosting this. And thank you.
I was free tonight, locked down, nothing to do, so I could be here. No,
Yeah,
it was a joy talking to you guys. Please check the website of the Bali, www.thebali.nl for other programming, and hopefully we'll meet again digitally or in real life very soon. Have a good evening and bye-bye.